Alright, I'm in Escanaba, Michigan right now, and this is the Cason J Callaway right here. Just sitting here. It entered long-term layup at Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin on January 16th, 2021. It was moved here on the 1st of December in 2023 and has just been sitting here doing nothing ever since. Nothing has been said about whether or not it's going to be repaired. She needs extensive steel work done. The vessel is part of the AAA Class, the AAA Class. Famous vessels from that class like the Philip R. Clark and Arthur M. Anderson. The Arthur M. Anderson was the last vessel to have contact with the Edmund Fitzgerald before it sank in 1975. Yeah, she's just sitting here doing nothing. Just wants some attention.
It was in the summer of 1950 that the story of the Cason J Callaway began. The Korean War had started, and once again the U.S. needed a constant flow of iron ore to meet wartime needs. Some companies updated their old vessels as 38 ships received new engines, 10 were converted into self-unloaders, and 6 others would be converted into a crane ship. Of course, this alone wouldn't be enough. New vessels were needed. So, the Pittsburgh Steamship Division would order 3 new vessels. The plans had actually been previously commissioned in 1947, but were put on hold until there was a need for the ships. The Korean War would bring that. So, the Philip R. Clark, Arthur M. Anderson, and Cason J. Callaway were ordered. The Clark and Anderson would be built at the American Shipbuilding Company's Lorain, Ohio yard, but the Callaway would be built at Great Lakes Engineering Works yard at River Rouge, Michigan. These 3 new ships were deemed the AAA Class. This design was drawn heavily from the 1949 built Wilfred Sykes and would prove its popularity as 5 more ships were built with the same specs for Cleveland Cliffs, the Interlake Steamship Company, Olgo Bay Norton, and Ford. Some Canadian companies even took from the AA Class design. Construction on the Cason J Callaway began in mid-1951, and the ship would be launched on March 22, 1952, the last of her sister ships. Her maiden voyage took her to Duluth, Minnesota on September 16, 1952. The career of the Cason J Callaway had begun. The beautiful freighter measured 647 feet in length, 70 feet in width, and 36 feet in depth. These dimensions enabled her to carry up to 21,000 tons of cargo. The Callaway would be powered by a Westinghouse steam turbine engine that produced 7,700 horsepower. 3 years later, an unfortunate event would occur. Just above Lime Island on the St. Mary's River, on August 21, 1955, the Cason J Callaway collided with the 1906-built B.F. Jones. The Callaway suffered minor bow damage, but the B.F. Jones would not be as lucky. The vessel received major bow damage and was considered a constructive loss and sold for scrap. But in 1962, the Cason J Callaway and some of her fleetmates would receive an odd task. The ships would carry ore from the Labrador mines on the St. Lawrence Seaway to U.S. steel mills around the Great Lakes. Some minor modifications were given to the Callaway and her fleetmates involved in these runs in order for the ships to run in saltwater. In fact, the mates were even assigned to Canadian vessels to be acquainted with the Seaway. This was done in order for them to apply for a pilot license from the Coast Guard for that region. These runs would continue into the early 1970s. In 1967, both the Pittsburgh Steamship Division and Bradley Transportation Line were merged with U.S. Steel as one fleet. That same year, the Cason J Callaway would end the Soo Loch's longest season on December 30th, 1967, and began U.S. Steel's Extended Navigation Project. This project was aimed at testing the efficiency of running the locks year-round. U.S. Steel would work with the U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to determine this. By the year 1974, the locks would be running year-round. But by 1979, the test ended and an annual close date was initiated for the Soo Locks. In 1974, U.S. Steel would approve a project that would lengthen their AAA ships. The Callaway would be the first to enter the dry dock at Fraser Shipyards on April 13, 1974. The vessel would then be cut in half just slightly aft of midship. The stern section was then floated out of the dry dock, and a new 120-foot midsection was floated in and lined up with the bow section. The stern section was then floated back in, and the three sections were welded together. On May 26, 1974, the Callaway would exit the dry dock and return to service a couple of weeks later with a new length of 767 feet and a new cargo capacity of 26,525 tons. A larger propeller would also be added to accommodate for the vessel's larger size. August of 1981 would again bring her back to Fraser Shipyards, this time for conversion to a self-unloader. The ship's cargo hold bottom would be removed, and a new sloped cargo hold was installed by lowering sections through the cargo hatches and then welding them together. The self-unloading equipment would be placed just forward of the aft deckhouse. The ship departed the dry dock on April 20th, 1982, to test the self-unloading equipment. Although the vessel's cargo capacity was slightly diminished at 25,300 tons, the unloading time went from 17 hours to only 6. The conversion cost around $11 million. In 1987, the Cason J. Callaway would again enter Fraser Shipyards for a stern thruster installation. But June of 1988 would bring a change for the Cason J. Callaway and her fleetmates. U.S. Steel would sell a majority stake of their fleet to Blackstone Capital Partners. In 1990, the signature black and gray diagonal lines were added to signify this change of ownership. The Callaway would also have her cargo holds rearranged to 7 cargo holds instead of the previous 3 to be more versatile. During the winter of 2000-2001, the ship's engine room would be automated at Fraser Shipyards. Now, the engine could be controlled from the pilot house. This made the Cason J. Callaway the first steamship on the Great Lakes to have her engine directly controlled from the pilot house. The Callaway would return to service on May 15, 2001. But in 2003, Canadian National Railway would purchase the fleet from Blackstone International Partners for $380 million. The ships would still operate as U.S.-flagged vessels under the direct ownership of the Great Lakes Fleet and management of Key Lakes Incorporated. In 2008, the Callaway would be the first ship at the Soo Locks on March 25th. Subsequently, the Callaway would collide with the American Republic a few days later in ice in the Straits of Mackinac. Up until being laid up in 2021, the Cason J. Callaway was a workhouse for the Great Lakes Fleet, commonly carrying limestone and iron ore around the Great Lakes. As of now, there are no official statements as to what will happen to the vessel, as she needs extensive steel work done on her hull. We can only hope that the Callaway will be repaired. Anyway, subscribe for more shipping history videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.